Mhm. Mhm. Good evening and welcome to Kunsang Biojoin. Always a pleasure to be here with everyone tonight. We have a teaching by Jetsunma Ahkon Lhamo. This one is from 2005 and its title is Your Life is an Opportunity. And so we will begin.
This videotape by Jetsunma Ahkon Lhamo was recorded live before a public audience. Jetsunma presents traditional Buddhist teachings in a contemporary way. She reaches out to us, longtime Dharma students and newcomers alike.
When Lord Buddha walked the earth, he taught us the Dharma. Of course, it was him that originally, in this aeon, this fortunate aeon, brought us the Dharma. Most of his teachings, if distilled down to their essential truth, are concerning the teachings on emptiness. Lord Buddha taught about emptiness continuously in many different forms. It's as though if emptiness were ice cream, he would have taught us every flavor. There are so many different ways in which he tried to communicate to us that this life is a dream, and that it has that dreamlike quality in that it is possible to awaken from this dream. He taught us that our nature was not what we perceive. He taught us that we are not separate from one another, except he even went further than that. He didn't say, you and I are one. He spoke of the primordial underlying nature. That nature which is free of contrivance, free of discrimination, expressionless, and yet full. This is the nature of the emptiness that he taught about. When we think of emptiness, we think of something bad, because we are a Western society and we are an accumulating society. We like things. We like material things. We like money and cars and houses and stuff like that. And from the time of our birth, we are taught to attain many things will bring about success. And it's funny because so many of us who have the fortunate, amazing merit to study the Dharma have thought maybe we didn't learn very well from our society, because we've discovered that we're not really all about things. Many of us have felt that way. In fact, I've had students come to me and say, oh, I feel like I'm a failure. I haven't really attained anything in my life. Okay, but saying that you haven't attained anything means nothing to me. I'm not interested in whether you have a car or some clothes, or I hope you have a warm bed and some food to eat, but I really don't care about the rest of it. I am more interested in one's character, one's qualities, and particularly habitual tendencies that we learn throughout our lifetimes. But Lord Buddha taught us about emptiness, and he taught emptiness in a way that we Westerners have a great deal of difficulty understanding. Because thank you, when we think about emptiness, we think about desolation, no-thingness, nothingness, no-thingness. We see an absence of. We do not understand the primordial nature that is so free of any kind of boundary or contrivance, the unsurpassed primordial view. Now, when I say it like that, it doesn't sound like desolation, does it? It doesn't sound like no-thingness. It sounds like something else. And therein lies the problem. Because we're still fooling around with thingness. We either have things or we don't have things. It's either empty or it's full. That's our Western understanding. But Lord Buddha taught differently. He taught us that we are locked in a dreamlike state, that each of us perceives our environment and our experience according to our karma and according to our habitual tendencies that we have practiced again and again throughout time, since time out of mind. Lord Buddha taught us that this has not been our only body, that we have had many bodies and we have appeared throughout samsara in many different forms. And yet all of that's very difficult to understand. Because here again, in a Western society, not only are we very much concerned with things, with accumulation of things particularly, but we're also very concerned with time and space and the exact measurement of that, to the degree that none of us can experience now. Just now, the richness of that view, just for 1 second, 1 instant. There again, we're speaking of time, aren't we? But our thoughts are always controlled by time, always controlled by space. And again, with that attachment to thingness, we see it almost like a grid. Time and space meet here, that's where the thing is. This time and space meet over here, and that's where that thing is. And that's kind of how Westerners think. It's very difficult to be a Buddhist if one is also a Westerner. And the reason why is because the primordial teaching, the underlying foundational agreement is Lord Buddha's teaching on emptiness. See? And for Westerners, we think that we have not only self, but there is other as well. We think that, yes, if we make prayers, and if we make prayers, we must be making prayers to an external deity. We think that as well. So Westerners have to make a lot of change, a lot of internal, deep checking and looking and seeing what is our tendency, what is our habit, how do we think. As Westerners, we have to learn to unravel the thinking that is so full of contrivance and so full of discrimination that we really are locked into the view of phenomena as being essentially real in its nature. But Lord Buddha did not teach like that. He taught us to understand differently. How to explain the nature of emptiness to a Western society. Wow. Big job. Very big job. But you have to understand that we as Westerners need to own it. We need to be owning these ideas of emptiness, these very Eastern ideas. Of course, I'm hating to talk about ownership because that goes to thing, doesn't it? But you see what I'm saying in a sense of understanding that these are our teachings as well. Yes, we were born into a confused society. Western society has taught us to cling to material things. We were taught that if we have lots of things, we'll be happy, and if we have lots of people around us with lots of things, we'll be happy. And we're taught that other people make us happy. And this is not what the Buddha taught. So we have to gradually untangle this ball of yarn and try to figure out, how do the Buddha's teachings apply to me? How does that work for me? If we let Buddhism be only an Eastern philosophy, and we give up in thinking, well, I'll try, I'll practice, but I'm not sure I can get that there is no external deity or anything external, really. How can I possibly understand that? Well, I'll put on the robes and I'll try. Well, that's a good start. And I'm not about to laugh at that. That's the way to go. You put on the robes and you begin. And everybody begins exactly where they are. And that's not a problem, because the great thing about Lord Buddha's teachings is that it goes across all cultural lines. It goes across all times. The teachings that he taught when he spoke from his mouth, when he was there incarnate, those were the teachings for those times. And then Mahayana came about, and then Vajrayana came about, and the Vajrayana teachings, the ones that we are practicing together, they are for this time. When Guru Rinpoche gave rise to all these termas, and he and his disciples buried them and hid them, they were hidden for this time. For this time, in their omniscience, in their awakened state, Guru Rinpoche and his disciples were able to bury the teachings in time and space. How amazing that is. And one of the great predictions was that a Mahasiddha would be born in Tibet at some time. And this Mahasiddha would reveal a whole cycle of Vajrayana teaching. And his birth, his name, his whereabouts, his parentage, everything was revealed. And that was Migyu Dorje. And it was Migyu Dorje who was the root teacher of the former Ahkon Lhamo. And he only lived a short time. I think it was 27, something like that. Does that sound right? Something like that. He was in his mid to late 20s when he passed, and he didn't die an ordinary death. He just said, I'm done here, I'm going to work somewhere else. Basically, that was pretty much it. He said, I'm done now, I'm going to the south, and I'll be reborn again. And then he left his body. How miraculous, how amazing that Guru Rinpoche would have buried teachings that came to fruition so much later. And then those teachings were so condensed and yet so potent. Migyu Dorje's cycle of teachings is considered so condensed that Westerners could practice it, even not knowing much about the language. Well, we're not stupid. We just weren't raised with the language. And so we needed a condensed but potent form. That potent form has been handed down from teacher to student, continually in an unbroken line of excellent practitioners. Until now, you see, one of Migyu Dorje's closest disciples has now appeared to be your teacher. Tell me that doesn't mean that this is for you. We think Buddhism is somebody else's religion. But no, I don't agree with that. You are here now, you are hearing the Buddha's teachings, and you have begun to practice the cycle of Migyu Dorje's termas. You are here. These teachings were made for you. You must have some amazing connection to Guru Rinpoche's blessing for you to even be in this room and hear about this. It doesn't happen often for sentient beings to come into their life here in a foreign world and meet their root guru and be able to partake of the nourishment of an unbroken lineage, beginning with Lord Buddha himself and then being ripened again and coming forth again as Guru Rinpoche. Now it also happens that another one of my predecessors was Mandarava, the young Indian consort who was one of the two main consorts of Guru Rinpoche. So you all seem to have some crazy connection with this Dakini. What does that mean? Once again, these teachings were meant for you. Every time I complain about how hard this is to build a bridge between the East and the West, every time I talk about, it's very hard to teach Westerners and I'm trying to do this and it's kind of hard, my teachers say to me, "Den, you shouldn't have requested it." And both my teachers have told me that, and I actually know of this, that I asked to take the most troubled students, or, no, hold on. That means a student who is ripe, potentially, but has obstacles. That's not bad. Most people never get near ripe. Most people never get anywhere close to that. And so, to have your opportunity ripen like that, and to arrive on the path and meet the teacher with this amazing direct connection that goes all the way to Guru Rinpoche, you have to say to yourself, this is something. This is really something. We make a mistake, I think, thinking that we're living in two worlds. There's only one world. And as Westerners, we think we have to live in two worlds. But there is only one world if we accomplish correct view. And that is the world of bodhicitta. You see, everything that we perceive as phenomena is completely undistinguishable from emptiness. We can't realize that because we are constantly in reactive mode. There's no space in our minds. We are constantly reacting, and to react, we are constantly affirming the reality of self and nature and the solidity of other, and the distance between. And that's what we do. We hold on to that. We think this is our world. We're living in two worlds. And yet the Buddha taught, this is a dream like any other dream. If you were to dream about measuring something, and in your dream you held a ruler to something to see how long it was, do you think that would be the exact right measurement? Is that even a good question? Well, think about it. Do you remember in dreams how fluid everything is? How there is, for some of us, we occasionally have some sense that we are dreaming. And yet, it becomes very fluid or very elastic. Well, although we don't realize it, well, we wake up from the dream and we think, oh, good, everything's solid here, I can measure. But in fact, you have just gone from the bardo of one dream to the bardo of another. Everything that we experience is a bardo. If you've read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you think, oh, bardo happens after death. But that's not true. We are in bardo now. Bardo is simply passage. And we are passing through certain conditions that are absolutely controlled by our karma and our habitual tendencies. Even the rules that govern this world, that are thought up by the scientists, starting with Newton and Galileo and all those really famous guys who measured stuff. We think those are right rules. Those are the rules for the world. If you go this far, you get there. And yet, there is no difference between this bardo and any other bardo that one experiences. In each one, there is a set of rules. There are perceptual guidelines and different sorts of conduct. Different sorts of appearances arise. This is simply the appearance of this life. And yet, because we are Western materialists, we work so hard to make this life successful. We work until we're 65 years old, so hard. Many of us more than one job. And then now we find out we've got to work longer than 65 years old. And it just never ends. We work every day, we work every day, we work every day. We try to make whole lives into the 2 little days we get off. And this is how we feel it is. And yet the Buddha has taught us that, once again, that we are in a dream. It's so hard to understand that even the guidelines that we are told to go by, you know, how many feet are in a mile, how many pounds are in a ton, all those measuring things, length, distance, time, all of this is created by consciousness. The consciousness of this bardo. So although we agree on measurements written down and things like that, each and every one of us has an unbelievably different experience. When your experience of pain is much different from somebody else's. Your experience of sorrow is much different from somebody else's. Even your experience of dimension and size of things is much different. Each one of us resides within a pristine bubble of our own nature. Like 2 mirrors looking at each other. We seem to reflect emptiness and yet see something. And yet under all of that is the primordial nature, which is free of any distinction, free of any contrivance, free of any concept. In fact, you could say that there is only emptiness. And emptiness is the same as the arising of the great bodhicitta. So if there's only emptiness and its movement, which is the bodhicitta, what are you? Well, we think to ourselves, I am you and you are me and we are all together, like the Beatles, you know? And so that must be it. We must live in a very lovely kind of blah, 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 and we think, oh, we'll just eat cake and think pretty thoughts. Well, it's not like that. It's that the primordial, empty nature has movement, and that's all. Why does that movement appear as display? Because it can. Because emptiness is the mother of infinite potential, just like white Tara is the mother of all the Buddhas. Emptiness is the mother of infinite potential. Why does it appear the way it is? Because it can. Because it's only one of the options. The emptiness that I speak of, that Lord Buddha spoke about, is empty like, what do you call those things on Fruit of the Loom underwear? Cornucopia. Well, you know, words. Words are difficult when you're basically an empty person. Emptiness is like a cornucopia in a way. Unborn, uncontrived, potential, naked. And then its first movement is the bodhicitta, like the sun and the sun's rays, like that. It's a very good example, actually. And so we are trying to understand how exactly that can be. How can it be that we are in this situation and we have things and you appear over there and it seems like you're way over there, and how is it that it's happened this way? Again, it is because of our own perceptual habits, our own habitual tendency. And yet, I say again, back to the basics. There is only emptiness and its primordial display. So how is this? What if I told you that there is nothing but emptiness and the great bodhicitta? That the nature of reality is pure luminosity. Like the luminosity of pristine awareness without the confines of ideas and concepts. A kind of shining, fulfilled, and yet empty nature. That is our nature. So when you start to practice Dharma, there's nothing you need to fix. Please get that through your mind. There's nothing you need to build either. Because there is only emptiness and the breath of bodhicitta. Now, you can't move into a state of denial either. So the fine line you have to pass here is very difficult for Westerners. Just how can this be? How can this be? Your nature is the uncontrived bodhicitta. You are the first and only movement of emptiness. You are the rainbow display of the primordial, uncontrived nature. And I'm not blowing smoke up your behind. That is the truth. You can't fix it because it's already there and incomplete. When I look at you, I see Buddha. I see Lord Buddha. And so, even though each of us has that habit of considering ourselves separate and defined, we have this. We have Dharma, which is nothing but method. That's what Dharma is. It's method. And it teaches us how to awaken in the way that Lord Buddha said he was awake. Many questions were asked of Lord Buddha. How is it that you are the way you are? Are you a man? Are you a god? Are you some kind of magician? What are you? And Buddha said simply, I am awake. That's simple. Deep within you, each and every one of you, is the whole, complete, without flaw, seed that is the nature. Doesn't need fixing. The only thing that needs fixing is habitual tendency. Beyond that, there's nothing to change. Even though it seems as though some of us have some high station in life, and like even the gurus have said, sure, I sit on a throne here, but in my heart, in my mind, I know that what our nature is inseparable, and that I will never be fully liberated until you are. I will never be free until all sentient beings are free. And it's my heartfelt prayer that I'll be the last one, the very last one here, pushing the last, next to the last one, forward, if I can. But you know, you can practice and look at yourself without judgment, because now you know who you are. You are the bodhicitta. Yes, you have to change your habits, and we're not getting any younger, so we better change them quick. But the judgment, the guilt, the self-hatred, the hatred of others or judgment of others, it has no place here. If you look at another practitioner and you say, you know, I don't like the way she practices, I don't like the way he practices, you better think again, because you're talking to Buddha. And yes, we have the discrimination to know that we bow to our teachers, we bow to the three precious jewels, the Lama, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, because these are not the spawn of samsara. These are extraordinary movements of bodhicitta, so profound that they penetrate perfectly and purely into the world. So profound that it cuts through the darkness of samsara and appears right before you. So yes, we honor the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But does that mean that you are something low? No. Please understand that in the mind of the enlightened ones, you are as precious as Lord Buddha himself. Each and every one of you. Whatever your habitual tendency has been, here is the way to change your habitual tendency. There's nothing else that needs changing. You will not become Buddha. You will not become bodhicitta. You will not develop bodhicitta, but you must give rise to it. Instead of constructing something frustrating because I have to build it, and it's not there yet, and oh, woe is me, instead of thinking like that, think more like washing a window so that the sun's rays can come through. But a window so gossamer, so like the dew that melts away the moment the sun appears. Because when that window is clean of habitual tendencies and gross defilements, and we understand the view, at that moment we sit in sunlight. We are sunlight. It's so amazing because, it's down to the nth degree, this belief in the solid. We have this Hubble telescope that we sent up there, and we have it looking for the Big Bang. All the way out there. It's out there. And they think they see it because there's a place beyond which there don't seem to be any galaxies. There seem to be a bunch of gases or something. So they think, oh, we're close. But in fact, that's just a symptom of the disease of our perceptual habits. When we look out into space, space is inside. People say to me, well, how did it start? If it didn't start with a Big Bang, how did it start? And here's your answer. You ready? Okay, meditate on emptiness. Go on. Okay, open your eyes when you've lost it. That was it. That was it. That was the beginning. Consciousness. It's all about consciousness, not about time and space. When did the world appear? When did phenomena appear? When you arose out of emptiness. When you, as the great bodhicitta, fulfilled your potential. And yet here we are, lost, because we were so good at it. And we struggle and we struggle. And Lord Buddha, Guru Rinpoche, all the great teachers of the lineage have said, wake up. Don't waste any time on judging yourself or anybody else. Don't waste any time on any of the phenomenal thoughts that you have. Don't waste any time on thinking that we are separate or anything that gives us even more solidity. Don't waste any time on that. Instead, develop the habit through practice of meditating on emptiness and then arising in our nature. Eventually, and I can tell you this, I know this, eventually when you meditate on emptiness and then arise as the great bodhicitta, in your practice, in generation stage practice, it will become a habit, like your other habits. And the more you do it, the more the scale tips that way. Nothing's changing, but you have a new habit. When we practice generation stage teaching, we practice that first there is emptiness, then maybe there is a lotus with a sun and moon seat, and then maybe there is a seed syllable like Hong, and then maybe the deity appears. Many, many generation practices are like that. Do you know what that is? You're practicing for your rebirth. You think that you came from the vagina of a woman. You think that your body is gross and corporal to the point that it ages and dies. Because that's the nature of gross corporal things. But when we practice meditating on emptiness, giving rise to the lotus, sun, and moon seat, if we were to have pure view, we would understand that that is the nature of our birth. Because of our habit, thinking of ourselves as some hunk of meat walking around, we think we came from a woman's body. How can Buddha come from a woman's body? In truth, each of us comes from a lotus. And now you also know in Vajrayana that a woman's private part is called a lotus. So from emptiness, we practice the awareness that we arise spontaneously, first as on the lotus throne, and then as the seed syllable Hong. or whichever the seed syllable happens to be. The seed syllable is the birth of pure awareness. And so we are practicing that when we visualize the seed syllable. And then when the seed syllable transforms to the deity doesn't have a fleshy corporal body like us. The deity has like a gossamer body, more constructed of light. If you can imagine a radiance that takes form, the deity is like that, not solid like us. And we are practicing to be reborn in Dewa-chan. And so there's reason and rhyme for every single word here. I beg you to follow the Buddha's teachings. It's the only way to escape the narcotic quality of samsara. The seductive, narcotic quality that says, forget emptiness, come over here and play with this. We practice, and we practice hard. And wouldn't it be nice if we had one of those religions where we could just say, I believe in you, whoever you are, and now then everything's fine, because now I'm going to go to heaven. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if that worked? Well, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. But in a way, it wouldn't be so nice because that means that something else is Buddha and you're not. So you need saving. But it's also saying that cause and effect don't matter. And this, the Buddha taught very strongly that cause and effect is everything. If you create the causes for happiness, you will have the result of happiness. If you create the causes of clearing the mind of obstacles, you will have the clarity of mind. And so it's all about cause and effect, method. And this is the way. Lord Buddha did something that no one else did. He left us the path. Method. Exact method. Visualize this, recite this, move your mind in this way, and then as you go further on, when you go to New York and you take your retreats, there's not only Ngundro, but there's the 3 roots, and there's Salung, where you learn to control the winds and energies of the body, and therefore the mind. And then there's Trekjod and Togyel, where you break through the limitations of consciousness. No one else left, from soup to nuts, such a method. And this is why I beseech you to be kind to yourself, to chow down on the nourishment of Dharma, to put away the things that never brought you any happiness anyway. It's insanity to repeat the same formulas if they've never worked. Lord Buddha has told us that a virtuous mind is a happy person. And I'm here to tell you it's the truth. I've met so many people and had close relationships with so many students, and I can tell you across the board, bar none, nobody is as miserable as a person who is self-absorbed. Nobody. It's a misery that I wouldn't wish on any sentient being. And the way out of that is in the teaching and the practice. One of the things that Lord Buddha taught us to do is to take a vow called the Bodhisattva vow. And that is a direct display of the bodhicitta, because here we are back in line again, in a way, understanding that all sentient beings are themselves Buddha, and that we should do everything we can to help them attain liberation. And so now we're back in line with this understanding of our same empty, uncontrived, luminous nature. And its holy breath which is the bodhicitta. Now we're acting like the bodhicitta. And that's why we take that vow. In fact, once again, you have to understand that even as Lord Buddha gave us vows to practice, these vows are meant to loosen our self-cherishing and yet give rise to vajra courage and confidence and awareness, knowing that we are Buddha. So we put away the ego cherishing and bring forth this idea that we are that nature. And we take these vows, and eventually we develop these new habits. When we take the vow of the bodhisattva, it's really completely inseparable from teachings on emptiness. Because Lord Buddha told us to act differently than what we would normally act. I might be very loving and very friendly toward my family and towards the people I like. And you might do the same. You love your wife, your husband, whatever, your children. We love them. They are precious to us. But Lord Buddha said, that's good, but go beyond that. Lord Buddha said, all sentient beings have been our mother. Why did he say it like that? What is the mother of us all? Emptiness. All sentient beings not only have been our mother, that's one way to understand it, but are the same primordial nature without distinction. When the enlightened ones look, they don't see where they end and you begin. And so naturally the bodhicitta arises because it is our nature. And so having said that, we're going to take some vows. We'll be taking the refuge and bodhisattva vows, and then for those of you that are ready, we will take the renunciate vow for lay practitioners. Now, once again, the refuge and bodhisattva vows are given very freely. Because when you take refuge, it means that you are honoring the three precious jewels and you are understanding that they are not of samsara, that is something distinctive and precious. It's the beginning of understanding that you are that also. But you have to start somewhere. And so we start with that vow of taking refuge. I do not take refuge in samsara. I take refuge in enlightenment, which is the Lhamo, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And as for the vows of bodhicitta, in one way you could say, ain't no big thing. Because if you are moving toward enlightenment, then you must accept your nature as the bodhicitta. And the bodhicitta is that which is compassion towards all. Like the sun's rays bathing us all golden and nurturing each one of us. The renunciate vow for lay practitioners is another step, going down the road a little bit. And what we do is we realize that we have thus far taken refuge in ordinary things. Which seems like a great idea when you're saying, 25. Because you're looking good, you're feeling good, everything's good, the whole world's in front of you. And you can just imagine all kinds of great things that are going to happen. But then sadly, we all get long in the tooth. We all get older, and the body changes, and the hair changes, and everything changes. And then we go, oh, whoa, there's more time behind me than there is ahead of me. So now things are getting serious. But we go through a middle-age crisis, and that solves the problem. And so then, further and further until we're so old. Then we go to the Lhamo and say, oh, I really have to get enlightened now because I'm getting ready to die, but I really can't do prostrations, I'm too old. So I'm encouraging you that this is the time. Believe me, even if you're only 25 and absolutely gorgeous, you're going to get old. There's no one that's escaped it yet. And you won't be the first. And so we must use this time, this dream state, which is so full of blessings that we actually have the capacity and the time and opportunity to practice. The time to do it is when you're young. To cultivate the mind so that as you get older, you have learned good thinking, good concentration, good meditation, good acting, good working, good everything. You've learned how to express the nature. If you wait to practice until you get old, there's not much time. I'm not saying if you're old you shouldn't start. Start! Now! But I'm always thrilled when I see young people beginning on the path, because that's the way. It's brilliant to do that. There's so much, so many opportunities, so much time. And you don't develop more time or more opportunities by not taking opportunities. In fact, they say on the path, every day you must think about the next day. You must create the merit this day so that the next day will remain firm on the path. And every day we should do that and think in that way.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for participating in this teaching. These teachings are always so incredible that I enjoy them as much as anyone, if not more. So I'm glad you're here with me and here with all of us. We invite you to KPC anytime, anywhere, anyhow. The temple is open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the prayer room inside and outside dawn to dusk. There's walking trails, meditation gardens, lots of farm animals. There's a garden that's getting bigger and bigger because our little goats are getting better and better at chewing up the garden with stuff. And so we've got, we're just trying to get more and more food out to the county through KPC Buddhist Relief, and more food and clothing and whatever is needed to people, immigrants who've come into our area and have nothing. So we invite you to help if you can, volunteering or donations or whatever you're able to do. So that's where we are with that. Teachings we offer all the time, every day, and most of them are offered online. I venture to say almost all of them, but you can also come in person. We really enjoy that. So we do have the teachings of Jetsunma at the moment on Wednesdays at 7:30, and on Sundays the time keeps changing, so I don't know what to tell you, but on Sundays maybe it'll go back to 11. I don't know. Some discussion is happening here, but we will have a teaching on Sundays. In addition, we are just so delighted to have Kempo Tenzin Karze here teaching. He teaches every other week to the public, and in between those weeks, he teaches to the ordained. And then on the fourth Wednesday, he does all of this on Saturday evenings. And then the fourth Wednesday of each month, he teaches or he has an open Q&A, so you can ask questions. And he's very accessible. If you're here on the property and you bump into him, introduce yourself and say hello. He is really a delight. He's open, warm, caring, and very interested in what's going on here at KPC and what other people are coming here to learn, so that he can be prepared to teach it. In addition, we have meditation classes on YouTube and in person on Saturday and Sundays. The moment they are at 10 a.m. Medicine Buddha at every evening at 7 p.m. on Facebook. And every day there is a food offering ceremony at some point during the day. So because it changes every day, I recommend checking out the calendar and getting the latest update. And so you can always tune in on Zoom, or please come if you're in the area. It would be lovely. We're trying to get more and more people back in the habit, the post-pandemic, oh my God, we could be there and be there in person. This would be great. So that's what we're hoping for. And so there we are. That's our schedule. More to be revealed. I'm sure there will be more things coming up. Summertime is always a lot of fun, and drumming will be starting up on Sundays at the Guru Rinpoche statue, drumming for rain, so that all of our summer goes well for all the plants and trees and everybody that needs water. So, with all of that going on, if you want to make an offering to Jetsunma, you always can. She's got a PayPal account. The email for that is Jetsunma Gift, JETSUNMA Gift, GIFT, @gmail.com. It's there in the chat, and you can go anytime to make an offering, to ask her questions, to engage with her in any way, and to just thank her for teaching. So all good things. Trust me, it'll probably go to food for a whole lot of people. So that's about what she does with most of her money. But that's a wonderful way to get it there. So anyway, here we are. Next teaching coming up is this coming Sunday at, I think, 11 a.m., but check the calendar. Calendar is on Torah.org. You can just go to the homepage on Torah.org, drop down to the bottom, find the page that says webcast/calendar, and check it out there. It's below the webcast. And so whatever time it lands on will be the time we do it. So thank you so much. We love having you. We're here for you, and we are you. What are we talking about here? So enjoy and have a wonderful week.